Hi, I'm Callise. Stare into the flames. I will show you images of Amicia and Hugo during our journey through a plague-style Requiem. If you don't want spoilers, now's the time to back out. This is where our journey began. There is a castle in the distance, and little did we know the danger that would be there, that Hugo would use the macula to save his sister, but in doing so, it would spread inside his body even worse. Hugo was having visions of an island, that a bird would lead him to a cure, and that he needed to find this island. And we reached this town that was supposed to have an alchemist that would be able to help Hugo with the maculus problem he was having. But we stopped to take a moment to see this guy spitting the fire out. Hugo wanted to be able to see the show, so Amicia put him on his shoulder so he could see. This is right outside what we thought would be our new home. And after this long journey, we thought we'd finally get to sleep in a real bed. Hugo got to feeling worse, so we were in a search for the alchemist. But sadly, we discovered the plague and the rats were here. We needed to find the alchemist quick, and we believed he would be in that tower. We did find the alchemist in this tower. The alchemist demanded that we went out and got Hugo this herb. I didn't really trust this alchemist, but we had to do whatever we could to help Hugo. Sadly, the alchemist and his wife had been murdered, and we were on our own to find the nightshade. Amicia went on a murderous rampage, and there was nothing we could do to convince her to stop until a night stopped her, and we were in prison. Luckily, Lucas had this alchemy item that would let us throw it into the fire and create a smoke screen so we could escape. And this is the view once we escaped. We got back home and heard Hugo was not doing well at all. But that horrible alchemist wouldn't even let Amicia see her own brother. I thought we should have snuck back in and taken Hugo and taken him to find the island he was dreaming about. But their mother ordered us to go to the harbor and find a man named Joseph who could get us a ship out of here. We made our way through town under the cover of moonlight. I just captured this moment because I liked how the door framed the characters with the lighting. I thought we finally reached the harbor where Joseph should be, but he was not here and we had to continue traveling further. We had managed to find Joseph and told him to wait for us in the harbor. The rats had showed up and we had to rush to save Hugo. He was having a terrible nightmare and Amicia had to calm him down. The horrible alchemist was killed by the rats and the town was in ruins. Hugo woke up and Amicia and Hugo shared a moment. Amicia was very soothing to him, but Hugo was realizing that the maculus inside of him when he had nightmares was causing the rats to destroy the whole town. We were able to get back to the docks, and Joseph and Lucas were waiting there for us. Our boat got stuck, and Lucas and I had to get off the boat and shove it away from the land to get it going again, and then we got separated from the boat. We got back to the boat, it got stuck again, soldiers attacked, Hugo defended Amicia by summoning the rats, and then we decided to push off the boat so the mother and Lucas wouldn't be able to stop Amicia, Hugo, and I from going to that island. There was a beautiful field of flowers, and Hugo used to love to collect flowers, and Amicia would put them in her hair. But then Hugo decided he wanted to collect feathers instead. We got chased into a quarry by soldiers. We were trying to reach this church to seek sanctuary from them. We reached the sea, and Hugo rushed ahead of us. A woman named Sophia said that she had a ship that she could take us away to the island, but we would have to reach the city where it was in its harbor. Hugo found a compass, and he was trying to see if he knew how to navigate to the island. Once we reached the island, Hugo got a crown of flowers. Arnell, someone we had been traveling with, that Hugo and him had made a deal to get to this island together. He said when we asked the islanders, we should not mention that the bird and the water of the cure came from Hugo's dream. Just ask about features of the island. Hugo got to throw flowers down at a parade. We happened to come on a day of celebration. It turned out that Arnell had wanted to use Hugo's ability to summon the rats to kill the Count, but when Hugo refused, Arnell went to battle with the Count. Amicia stopped Arnell, and Emily saw what happened, and we became their guest of honor. I personally thought it was a mistake. If Arnell needed to get revenge for what the Count had did, maybe the Count deserved to die for what he had done. If the Count had taken away someone Arnell loved and that he wanted revenge that badly, I didn't think the Count could be that good of a person. But what could I do? It had already been done, and here I am as a guest. The Count and his wife Emily took us to see the gardens. We stopped here, and Emily asked if we would be willing to say a prayer in our own way. And once we were left alone, Amicia pointed out to Hugo how it looked like the bird, and Hugo confirmed it was the bird from his dream. The next day, we were left on our own to explore the island. I heard this woman say that lunch was going to be ready soon to the guy on the roof, so I tried to see if I could get us some lunch. The lady was not amused. She did not feed us, but a girl has to try, right? We found these bird statues all over the island and began to follow the direction they were facing. Hugo really did like the windmills, and he wanted to take a peek inside, so we did. Hugo pointed out that Sophia's ship was way down there. Hugo told us that this was the mountain from his dream. Hugo was so excited to see the mountain he was shouting about it. This fisherman was so upset that Hugo probably scared all the fish away. Hugo was very polite and said he was sorry, but as soon as we were out of earshot, Hugo said, "I hope the fish got away." Sophie taught us that this was a smuggler's code, that they had to leave their items behind and somebody else would have to come and find them. We headed back to the windmills and discovered that stopping certain ones and starting certain ones opened up this smuggler's cave. And there Amicia found a bracer that allowed her to recover from enemies' attacks quicker, and when she wore it, she felt stronger. So after that little distraction of the smuggler's code and finding their cave, we returned to our search for where the statue birds pointed. We headed towards a sanctuary that was in Hugo's mountains. At the sanctuary, we discovered a cult, and we wore robes and put on a mask and pretended to be a part of them. We followed them down a long hallway. Amicia noticed the art in the background because her mother had an art piece similar to that at their home. Everyone was asked to kneel because a mother and son would be chosen to do the sacred ceremony. Amicia and Hugo were chosen, and they would have to carry the sacred torch. They would carry the torch, and a waterfall would put out the flame. The child of fire would turn into the child of embers. And then they would experience the darkness that would follow. Sophia reunited and found us a way to sneak away from the cult. We found some art of the phoenix. We discovered that a long time ago there was another carrier, just like Hugo, and that was what the ritual was based on. And he had a female warrior protector, just as Hugo had Amicia, the original carrier, had a protector as well. We found ancient drawings of the carrier and the protector. We found the symbol of the phoenix along with the symbol of the order. We discovered that the original carrier, Basil, had been experimented on by the order, just as the order had tried to experiment on Hugo. Sophia was able to read the parchment, and there she discovered that they separated the protector from the carrier, and they took the protector to a fort, to a chapel. We were heading to the fort wanting to discover what had happened to the original protector, and on the way there, Hugo noticed an ancient ship had been wrecked, and he asked Sophia could the crew gotten away. She said some of the crew could probably have escaped, but some of them were embracing the sea now, and got turned into crab food. We could see the fort in the distance, though nothing could prepare us for what would be there. Amicia and I fell below, getting separated from Sophia and Hugo. I was very worried it would take such a long time to get back to them. We got a taste of what kind of men worked at these forts. We had to fight our way to get back to Hugo and Sophia, which didn't take as long as I had feared. Hugo found a raven's feather, and we found this beautiful view that we wanted to take a moment before we had to continue our journey. Right before we got to the fort, I noticed this really beautiful tree. Sophia's prism was able to create a light source between bonfires. As we got closer to the chapel, we discovered they were sacrificing people, trying to summon the child. Inside the chapel, we saw a tribute to the previous carrier, and we found that the previous protector had been in prison here, and she hid her ring there. We ended up deep underground trying to discover what happened to the previous carrier, and lighting this bonfire lit up the whole area underground. The light seemed to be shining the right way to go, but suddenly the rats appeared. There was an area that was a rat's nest. We had tried to cross over a bridge, but we got separated from Sophia and Hugo. Hugo gave Amicia a big hug when we were all reunited. Underground, we had discovered that the original protector had tried to get back to the original carrier, but the carrier had given up hope of ever getting out of their imprisonment and destroyed everything with the rats underground. We made our way back to the city and discovered the rats had attacked here. When we got into town trying to head towards the ship, a guard told us that Amicia and Hugo's mother was there, and Lucas as well. The Count summoned Amicia, and I had a really bad feeling about this. I thought that we should have taken her mother and Lucas, and we all should have snuck out and got away. But Amicia thought it would be a quick conversation and we should go. But where Amicia goes, I follow. The Count attacked Amicia. I knew he was bad. This left us battling for our lives. This is the first image I was able to capture after the horrific events. Hugo's mother was murdered right in front of his eyes by Emily, trying to become his mother because of the cult's teachings. Amicia and Hugo are struggling with their grief, and Lucas and I are trying to keep them going. Trying to escape the city, we ended deep underground. Lucas had a beautiful speech reminding Amicia and Hugo that they had at least had each other. Hugo, battling the grief inside of him, was threatening to be a shell of his former self. Losing his mother was almost too much. Hugo was very close to giving in to the maculus inside of him. It was close to taking him over, but Amicia wouldn't let it happen. She reminded Hugo of their bond, and she was able to help him keep going on. We found out that Arnell was going to be hanged by the Count, and we went to go rescue him, and Hugo summoned the rats and attacked the soldiers to save all our lives. We managed to get everyone to the ship, and we were happy to sail far away from that horrible place. And here Amicia and Hugo are having a moment, and Arnell is taking a rest. The Count attacked our ship and stole Hugo away from us. The last thing Hugo saw was Amicia getting shot by an arrow before the Count knocked him out. Arnell was torn between trying to get Hugo away from the Count and the guards or going after Amicia, but he had to save Amicia from the ship that was sinking. He was able to get her to the beach and patch her wound up well enough that she could fight for a while. Arnell and the Count were in a huge battle, and Amicia battling his guards. Arnell died to be able to remove the Count's helmet so Amicia could use her sling to kill him. Arnell died seeing that his revenge was sought through, and the Count would die for his crimes. Hugo had thought Amicia had been killed, and he gave in to the Maculus, threatening to destroy the world. We were hoping that Amicia would be able to reach Hugo and snap him out of it so he would stop all this. We got separated from Sophia, who injured her leg, and we were separated from Lucas, but we had to reach Hugo. We were reunited with Lucas, and he warned us that inside that dome, reality would not hold the same laws that we know of. We saw these bird statues and began to follow them as we had before, but Hugo's voice called out to us and said we could not follow the old ways, we must do something different. Amicia had been fighting for so long to protect her brother and to save those she cared about, but here she was told to put out the flame and just give up. This is the last time Amicia would be able to embrace her brother Hugo. Hugo told her that people were dying because of him and the maculus inside of him, that if she stopped him, if she killed him, that it would stop everybody from dying. Amicia said that I don't want you to die and I don't want to be alone, but Lucas and I reminded her that she would not be alone after this. Hugo asked her to do it, so she had to take her sling and put it into the maculus and save everybody's lives. Amicia started to live a peaceful life here in this cabin in the mountains, the place she had wanted to take Hugo. Amicia is visiting Hugo's grave site. She wants the message to be known. She wants, if there's another carrier and another protector, to know what happened to the previous ones and to let them be warned about the maculus and things they know about it. And that is why I am telling you this tale, so you know Hugo and Amicia's story about the carrier and the protector. Thanks for watching. Maybe you'll watch more. Maybe the video on the left, maybe the video on the right. If you're on a mobile device and you don't see any videos on the screen, it's in the description.